Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back, and this is part 3 of the float lock vise build. So let me update you a little bit on what we've done so far, and then we'll go on with the next operation. Let's get started. If you have not watched parts 1 and 2, I suggest you do that to bring you up to date and so that you realize what we're doing here. But again, I'm building a float lock vise, and some of you are doing it as well. And in the last episode, the last part, I took the 2 jaws and I did all the drilling, I tapped, and those are really the most critical operations. So if you don't do that right or correct, it's just not going to work. But that being done, I'm ready to put the 2 angles on here that look like this. Those aren't very critical, and I could do that whole thing on the milling machine in 10 minutes or less, but I'm going to tackle that with the shaper today. I've been dying to use that little South Bend shaper. It's going to take a long time. I won't show all of it, and really I should saw part of it off, but that just seems like I'm using 2 different machines to do one job. And my saw is pretty slow, so we're going to see how the shaper does with this, because it's such a small shaper. If you had a big one like A-bomb, it wouldn't take long. And I want to get out in the garage and do that. It's still very early, the grass is wet, and Tommy is not mowing yet, so I'll sneak out there as soon as I do the layout. Now, looking at the original, the measurement right here is 3/8 of an inch, so I've set 1 combination square for that. And the length here is 1 3/4, but I added 1/16 to that to allow me to trim this later on after the whole thing is done. And remember, the entire length here is not that critical, and we do not care what angle this is. The angle is irrelevant, although you could measure this with a protractor and then transfer it onto there. It really doesn't matter, but I like to lay it out just dimensionally. Also, I'd like to point out that I always index mark, wrong side here, in some way a pair. When I'm working with a pair, notice the little center punch marks there, because it may not work as well if you do it like this. So pair them up like that. I just find that to be very useful, but optional. It sure is handy to have plenty of layout tools. I have duplicates of everything, which really helps me with these demonstrations. Against this, again, this is 3/8, and this is 1 3/4 plus just a little bit. And then I simply connect the 2 marks. And for anybody that actually cares, it's about 18 or 19 degrees. Just not critical at all, it's just more a visual thing. There is really no need to mark this other piece, but I did so as a reference so that I do not cut this angle on the wrong side and ruin the piece, which really ruins both pieces because you'd have to start over. So, looking at it like this, I'm going to shape them as a pair, like that, when I put them in the Atlas, or I should say the South Bend vise. Now look what I'm doing. For the lack of a large enough machinist clamp, I want to clamp the 2 together, and I'm using a vise, and it's going to be quite awkward and heavy as I put it in the shaper, but for now that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just again get these 2 ends perfectly even. Clamp it down, and now it's ready to set up in the shaper as a pair. Again, double checking my index marks here. Get the light right here, you can see the center punch marks and now the layout lines. So that's ready to put into the vise at an angle. At the high school in the olden days, we made a machinist hammer, something like this, and we tapered the end, and that also was done on the shaper. Alright, let's go out in the garage where the South Bend shaper is before the neighborhood wakes up. Well, here I am at the 7-inch South Bend shaper, and thanks to Ron Cox for the great gift. And this is really the debut of this machine, and I'm not giving a complete lesson on this in regards to setting the length of the stroke and the speed of the stroke and the location of the stroke and the feed and all of that. That'll come later on. I'm just going to dig right into this and get started setting it up and cutting. So I've got the little vise, and that vise is not very large. It's just 4 inches. I've got it wide open, ready to receive the project. So the work is going to be held in there in this manner at an angle, and the layout line here is going to be parallel with a straight edge of some kind. That's about an 1/8 inch thick. Now I got to get almost on my knees to get that perfect, and then I'll clamp it down nice and tight. And both pieces are being held firmly, and then I'll take the vise off. And I just heard a mower start up. I think I got it set pretty well, and can you see this or not? Let me zoom in just a little bit. But we want the line up above the vise enough so that we do not, what's this we? I do not hit the vise. And now I'm going to take the clamp, or in this case the vise, off there, and I'm satisfied that the two pieces are being held together properly. And now a few adjustments and I'm ready to cut. Down at the base of the machine there's a support here, and I've loosened that up, and I want to make sure that that little shoe is riding down here, and then I'll lock that and put a little bit of oil on here because this is going to slide back and forth very slowly as the table moves. Now looking over here, I've already got the speed set, and I do not know offhand how many strokes per minute. You can count them, but I'm on the second step here away from the machine itself. So I'll close that, and looking right here at the feed bar or adjustment or eccentric, whatever we call this, and I have an 8/1000 feed, which is my roughing cut. Maybe I'll make it a little bit less as I finish up. It depends on the finish. And there, of course, is my on and off for the cross feed. I may be using the wrong term there. Be sure and wear your glasses in the shop at all times. Now, before I turn the machine on, although I've already adjusted this, you should rotate this hand wheel, and every shaper has one, to check the stroke length. You see that that might be a little longer than I need, but I like to be a little bit past it this way and a little bit past the work this way. And that tool, which I'm not going to really talk about, I just ground. It's just 1/4 inch high-speed steel, and it's very similar, possibly even identical, to a lathe tool, held in the special shaper tool holder. And I'm going to call this the compound, even though it isn't. The slide is set about in the middle position so that it has some rigidity. Again, I'm not talking about how to adjust, to make all these adjustments. That can be done in another video. This video is already getting too long. All right, turning it on, let's see what we got. I'm going to bring the tool right over the corner of the work and then slowly lower the head until I have contact. And there's my first shaving. Did you see it? I'm still making some adjustments here as I get my feet wet. But you can see this will be a very slow process. If I had it on the Bridgeport mill, I'd be done already. But this will be fun for you and me. Well, it's progressing, albeit slowly, and I'm taking a 25,000th depth of cut. And I feel that's the maximum that this machine will allow. I just have a feeling from the sound and the vibrations and all of that. And again, repeat myself, 8 thousandths on the crossfeed. And you can count the strokes. It's possible that I could run it a little faster, but I really don't think so. This may be a minor point, but worth noting that the feed should be set such that the crossfeed is moving when the tool is at the back of the work. In other words, starting its cut. Otherwise, you might get a little bit of an angular streak or angular cut. Does that make any sense? Think about it. Boy, the chips are flying everywhere. I've got them in my shoes. Remember, you can make anything you want, absolutely anything, on a shaper other than money. A couple things to note, and I did count it. I'm at approximately 60 strokes, and I think you realize that the return stroke on the shaper where nothing is being cut is faster than the forward stroke, approximately a 60 to 40 ratio. And that's all done with that Whitworth mechanism that I talked a lot about in an earlier video several years ago. I am getting fairly close to the line, as you can see, so it will only take several more passes. And just to note that every shaper came equipped with a stool for the operator to sit on because the machine was so slow and so low. I'm right down to the line, so I'm going to take a final pass and increase the depth of cut only about 5 or 8 thousandths, and I'm going to change the feed rate just a little bit to, oh, I don't know, 4 thousandths, let's say, and see how that works for the final pass and final, I hope, pretty good finish. Alright, this will be the final pass. I'm not sure the finish is any better, but you can see the chips are very small, and this is going to take a long time for this final pass because of the slow feed rate. And then I should say, I'm looking at the clock now, the entire operation here took about an hour and 15 minutes, so it was pretty slow going, but pleasurable. Alright, the last pass just about completed, and then I'll take it out, and I don't think that improved the finish at all. I should have stopped and sharpened the tool, but that's going to have to do. It is what it is. All right, let's take it out. Looks pretty good right down to the line. And back to the workshop to knock off some burrs. Okay, they're looking pretty good. You can see what the finish looks like. Actually, it looks almost like an abrasive machine finish, doesn't it? And I can feel the grooves. And I could polish that. I probably will not. You know, I'm not much on that type of handwork, but I will knock off the burrs. like such on both pieces. Well, here it is, all mocked up with the screw and the guide bar, and it's looking pretty good. And that will conclude this part 3 of this series. And in the next part, I'm going to mill the step in here, or the groove, and the V-groove, and several other operations, depending on how much time I have. I'm trying to keep these video parts in the 15 to 18 minute range, and I'm not sure how many of those there will be in this entire series, but hope you like this part. This is tubalcain saying so long for now, and I'll see you in the next part.